Claire, and I'm just going to be showing you guys how to make cinnamon muffins. And so I'll show you guys the science behind it and all the materials you'll need so you can make them at your own home. So yeah, first you're going to need to get out your equipment. So you're going to need a half a cup, a 1 cup, a 1/3 cup, and then you're going to need bowls. This is the one I have. And then a whisk and a spatula. And then you're going to want a muffin tin, and you're going to want to spray it so that the muffins don't get stuck. And then you're also going to want your sous chef. This is mine. Okay. And you're going to want to put your hair up so your food does not get in your muffins. That's why he put his hair up too. And then we have all the ingredients over here, so I'll just put a picture of that right in. So I know the ingredients. But I'll just list it out on the side. You need 1/2 a cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/2 a teaspoon of salt, 1/2 a teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 1/2 a cup of milk, 1 egg beaten, and 1/3 a cup of butter. So yeah, and I already preheated my oven, but you preheat it to 400 degrees. So yeah. So first we're going to mix the flour, sugar, and the baking soda in a bowl just like this. So I'm just going to get my flour. So I'll show you that. Okay, so it's 1 1/2 cup of flour, so I'm just going to get a spoon. Sorry. So I'm going to get a spoon and spoon it in. And I substituted my normal flour with whole wheat flour just to try to make it a little healthier. But any flour works. It's really just personal preference. So yeah. And muffins really need to have the exact measurement so that they rise and everything happens. So I'm just going to level them off and make sure it's exactly measured 1 cup. And then I'm just going to put that into my bowl. Then you also need a 1/2 a cup. So I'm going to take my 1/2 a cup measuring cup. And again, just spoon the flour. And remember to clean all your utensils and bowls before you cook, because we don't want to get any diseases like Shigella while cooking. And I made sure to inspect my kitchen for any rodents and anything, so yeah. Then we're just going to put that in the measuring bowl as well. And then excuse me, make sure that didn't get into our food. So then we're done with the flour, so I'll just put it away. And we're going to get a 1/2 a cup of sugar. So again, trying to make it a little healthier, I'm using organic cane sugar, but it's up to you. I know unhealthy probably tastes better, but gotta get that spring break bod. So yeah, you're just going to pour it in and level it out like we did with the flour. And yeah, so we're just going to pour that in, and that is 1/2 a cup again. And then the baking powder, which the baking powder is really it's a necessity to make the muffins rise, which if the muffins don't rise, they're just basically going to be flat pancakes, which we don't want, because the baking powder is in fact a leavening agent, which is what gives the muffins its big fluffy top, or else it would just be completely flat, and we don't want that. So yeah, I'm getting my measuring spoons out, and the baking powder is 2 teaspoons, and we want this to be really exact because, again, since it's the leavening agent, if we do too much, it will be messed up, and if we do not enough, then it might not rise. Sorry, my mom screams really loud. So there's one. And I'm leavening it on the side with just this side scraper thing that is built into it. And yeah. Sorry, we have someone interrupting. So then you're just going to add the salt and nutmeg. So that's 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So I'm going to go get those. So for the nutmeg, I'm just going to use my spoon and my 1/2 teaspoon and just measure it in like so. This will give the muffins the spicy flavor that we want for the cinnamon. And then for the 1/2 teaspoon of salt. So I poured it over this just so the extra wouldn't get into our muffins and make that a disaster. So yeah, so then we're gonna quickly mix that. We can just mix it with this, and I'll try to show you guys just normal mixing. Not too big of a deal, but it's just the dry ingredients. And then we want to make a well in the center of our dry ingredients because next we're gonna add the wet ingredients. And you want to make a well because a well is helps it so that we don't over mix the dry ingredients into the wet, and we don't want to over mix it because if we over mix it, it forms gluten, and the gluten is what makes it like more smooth and stuff. And that's why for the muffins and stuff, you don't want it super mixed. Like when you mix pancakes, you want to perfectly mix the batter and stuff, but for muffins, you like the lumpy batter because it is a quick bread, and quick breads you don't need to overmix so that they can rise and be the perfect like muffin texture. So next we're gonna add the egg, milk, and butter. So it's just 1 egg right into the center of the well, and I'll show you guys quickly what that looks like in case you don't know. But I want to wash my hands after I touch the egg so I don't get any diseases like salmonella. Okay, and then we're gonna add the milk. 1 second. So the milk is 1/2 a cup of milk. So we're just gonna measure that in and pour it into the center of the well. And then lastly, we have 1/3 cup of butter melted. So I'll go melt that, and then I'll show you guys the rest we can do. Okay, so now that the butter's melted, we're gonna also pour that into the center of the well. So yeah. So now it's all perfectly in the center of the well. And when we mix, we're gonna stir the dry ingredients into the wet ingredients, but we don't want to over mix the batter like we said. So just until you can like see clumps starting to form. But again, really not over mixing it. If it starts to look like pancake batter, then you might have over mixed your batter. Okay, so that looks about good. Not too mixed, but not under mixed. So now we're just gonna get our, sorry, get this out of the way, our muffin tin. And we have to grease it, so I'll go grab that. So after you spray your muffin tin, you're gonna wanna get a spoon or something to just scoop out the, sorry, my dog's having a cough attack. You can use like an ice cream scoop or anything to just scoop out the muffin batter and scoop into one of the muffins. So yeah, sorry. And then just keep on doing that until you're done with all your batter. You don't want too much because it's going to rise. Okay, so when you're done with that, it should make about 8 muffins. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to put it into the oven, and then we're going to make the topping that we're going to put on top of the muffins when they're done baking. And it's 400 degrees for 20 minutes. So now for the topping, we're just going to melt the butter, and then when the butter is melted, we're going to dip the top of the muffins into the butter, brush the top of the muffins with the melted butter and then dip it into the cinnamon sugar. So for the cinnamon sugar, it's 1/2 teaspoon of ground cinnamon. And then 2 tablespoons of sugar. And then you're just going to want to mix that, and after you dip the muffin top or brush the top of the muffins with the butter, and then dip it into the cinnamon sugar, just let them cool, and you're done. Thank you.